Thank you, Presiding Officer. To start, can I thank the clerking team for the huge amount of work that they've put into compiling this report, and also Audit Scotland for their input, and can also thank all members around the Chamber for their contributions today, and can I say how reassuring it is that so many across the Chamber are committed to the scrutiny of the issues raised in the report. While I am pleased to be closing the debate on behalf of the Public Audit Committee, it is with considerable regret that this Parliament is debating, once again, two vessels that should have set sail 5 years ago and are currently 3.5 times over budget. The significant failings throughout this project have let islanders down and have caused disruption to their everyday lives, and lessons must be learned. I start by echoing the concerns expressed by the convener about the Scottish Government's response to our report. So short is the response that of a 7-page document, only around half of it addresses the committee's key findings, conclusions and recommendations. The rest of it merely reproduces large sections of our report and lacks the detail we would have hoped for. Take, for example, the committee's serious concerns about Transport Scotland's role in the project. As CMAL's sponsor, Transport Scotland had a critical role in communicating important information to Scottish ministers on its behalf. We are clear that it consistently failed to reflect CMAL's significant concerns to Scottish ministers, whether this be in relation to the high-profile public announcement of FMEL as the preferred bidder or the awarding of the contract to FMEL. Given the extent of the concerns raised by CMAL regarding the financial risks associated with the contract, Transport Scotland should have sought written authority from Scottish ministers before any further progress was made with the project. Indeed, as it materialised, the absence of a full builder's refund guarantee, coupled with no general quality standards in the contract, resulted in CMAL's position being significantly weakened when problems with the standard of FMEL's work became apparent, and these points were covered in detail in Brian Whittle and Jamie Green's contributions. No comment is offered at all in relation to any of these concerns. The Scottish Government's response does, however, highlight the recent approach taken to the written authority provided to secure the continued build of vessel 802 at FMPG. Indeed, it is recognised that the Scottish Public Finance Manual has specific requirements for the notification of any instance of written authority, which must be drawn to the attention of the Auditor-General, and I welcome that this was adhered to. I also take this opportunity to reiterate the committee's call for the Scottish Government to follow the UK Government's example in proactively publishing the list of all occasions when written authority was sought on its website to improve openness and transparency in this area. Turning next to the committee's concerns about the Scottish Government's commitment to paying additional vessel costs regardless of the final price. While the Scottish Government has challenged this assertion, the committee remains concerned about the ongoing significant risk that costs will continue to rise. This, of course, is now proving to be the case, with the former Deputy First Minister announcing in March that an additional £6 million would be allocated in the 2022-23 financial year. This comes alongside the more recent announcement by the Cabinet Secretary in May, which clarified that additional money will be allocated during the current financial year following a process of due diligence. It is extremely disappointing that at no point does the Scottish Government's response address the committee's well-founded concerns about these soaring and still unknown final costs. And Willie Rennie raised his concerns of a blank cheque being written, which is also a concern of the committee. The Scottish Government's response does, however, welcome, and I quote, the report's recognition that there have been significant improvements in procedures and processes by Transport Scotland and CMAL since the procurement of vessels 801 and 802. A quick one.
Jamie Green.
Thank you to the member for taking intervention. I mean, what is clear, I think, to everyone is that one of the main and principal drivers of the catastrophic failings in this process was the breakdown in relationships between the main protagonists, CMAL, Transport Scotland, and the Scottish Government and the manufacturers, and probably CalMac as well. Did the committee give any consideration as to what future changes could be done to that relationship to ensure that those breakdown relationships don't happen again?
Sharon Dowey.
That was covered in the committee's report, and it's been noted that there has been an improvement in the relationship between them, but we obviously need to keep tabs on that. It would be fairer to say that the report notes some signs of progress. For example, we're encouraged that there appear to be signs of more constructive relations between the new management and the workforce and between FMPG and CMAL. However, the committee wants to see much more progress to ensure that this situation never happens again. In addition, while we note the action taken by the Scottish Government to publish a business investment framework to strengthen its approach to investment in private businesses, we are clear that the work doesn't stop there. That's why we're calling for more to be done to strengthen the framework to better outline intentions over risk tolerance, risk appetite and the expected public benefit of future interventions. While the Government's response indicates that it is in active engagement with Audit Scotland in this matter, it is unclear how or indeed when this will be achieved. I turn next to the intervention of several Scottish ministers throughout the project on which a majority of committee members raised concerns. Central to these concerns is a lack of transparency around why certain decisions were taken. Whether this be a lack of documentary evidence to clarify why the former First Minister led on the very public announcement of the preferred bidder, a lack of documentary evidence to explain why Scottish ministers accepted the risks associated in approving the award of the contract to FMEL, or that a full record of a meeting between the former Director of FMEL and the former First Minister does not appear to exist. Even more challenging is that poor record-keeping means that the Scottish public and this Parliament are in the dark about what exactly happened at some crucial stages of the project. While it is encouraging that the Scottish Government has issued new guidance on the recording of decisions, we are unanimous in calling on the Scottish Government to further review and refine its record-keeping procedures. This would facilitate scrutiny and improve both transparency and accountability. I share the concerns expressed by the convener that the Scottish Government's response to this recommendation does not provide the committee with any meaningful detail on how this is being addressed. As the convener has already set out, a number of developments have taken place since our report was published, and it is clear that further developments will follow. Notwithstanding our own continued scrutiny of the Auditor-General's Section 22 report on FMPG, we await with interest the Net Zero Energy and Transport Committee's forthcoming report on a modern and sustainable ferry service for Scotland and the next steps associated with the Project Neptune governance review. It is encouraging that the Government shares the Committee's opinion that this review does not represent a silver bullet in preventing a similar situation from occurring again. Do I have time to cover members' contributions, or do you want me to close?
You have time, Ms Dowey.
Okay. To cover some of the contributions from other members, Graham Simpson spoke of the lack of transparency, accountability and the lack of a builder's refund guarantee, and that was mentioned by quite a few members across the chamber. Craig Hoy also spoke of the insufficient evidence to explain why ministers made the decision, and again that's something that the committee wants to have more transparency. Oops. He also mentioned island communities now paying the price, and that was something that was also mentioned in contributions from a lot of people around the chamber: Rhoda Grant, Alistair Allen, Neil Bibby and Stuart McMillan. Stuart McMillan also raised concerns that the shipyard was being criticised, but could I say to Stuart McMillan that the criticism in the report was with those ministers and government bodies who took the decisions, it wasn't the workforce. Paul Sweeney also mentioned... I'm kind of closing, sorry. Paul Sweeney also mentioned the point, if we want to be a shipbuilding nation, then we need to look at the basics. And Rhoda Grant, in her contribution, actually said we need to sign off a design that will fit harbours. So she should maybe have been at the procurement process, it would have maybe helped. So in closing, I take the opportunity to restate the committee's call for a formal review of the project to be undertaken upon completion of the vessels, and this will help the Scottish Government learn vital lessons for the future so that Scotland's taxpayers and island communities can have confidence in the procurement and construction of future vessels. Thank you.